Hello and welcome, and changing the metagame most certainly. And I don't talk much, but I definitely do here and there about just handicapping stuff. I guess is the way of putting it, both for betting against the spread, over unders, and that of fantasy. And this angle works for all three. As I just completed watching this video of a regular mainstream show on Fox Sports One, Skip and Shannon reacts to Packers defeating the Browns 10-3 in the opener. And they brought up an amazing point as both Aaron Rodgers and Mitchell Trubisky, who started that game, did not play at all in the preseason. And, well, the score 10-3. Well, it was low scoring. And Trubisky looked, and Shannon Sharp on the left said it. I thought exactly the same thing. I thought he looks like he's playing his first ever game. He looked horrible. Aaron Rodgers was, I mean, he definitely started off horrible. Didn't even get a first down, I think, in the first quarter, which is going to bring an interesting aspect to the early aspect. And what they're saying is that you go from like 25% to 100% from like practice to game speed. Thus, at least if you play a little bit in the preseason, you get what you need to start the season. Well, we are at a stage where a lot of quarterbacks did not play in the preseason. So I decided to let's just figure out the stats. And actually, Ryan Tannehill's not even the starter, so he doesn't even count. I think Marcus Mariota's the starter, but he played though. Marcus Mariota played. But anyway, Ryan Tannehill got 36 snaps. Kyler Murray, rookie in Arizona, got 36 snaps. Oh, the rookies need it. That's not going to really help him too much. My one big thing about week one of NFL season is always go against a rookie quarterback. Well, there's one, and this is Kyler Murray. It's the only one. All other 31 starters have played before. Ryan Fitzpatrick, the veteran. Oh, this is going to be huge. I love the Miami game. I did for different reasons. And I think that other reason is gone, but I'll get to that in a second. But I do love Miami this weekend. Baker Mayfield of Cleveland had 32 snaps, so you got to think he's ready to go full gear from snap one. Case Keenum, Washington, 30 snaps. Jameis Winston, Tampa Bay, 29. Matt Ryan, 28. Andy Dalton, Josh Allen, Jimmy Garoppolo at 26. This is attempts. This is how many attempts that they've had, pass attempts. Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, Marcus Mariota, says Mariota there, 20 attempts. So I guess I could just say, Tannehill, you're gone. And Matthew Stafford had 19, Patrick Mahomes 19, Russell Wilson 18, Joe Flacco of Denver. He sucks, really, 15. And when you talk about these young guys, I think anyway, that's my opinion. I think he's not that good of a quarterback, but he might be in a good spot on Monday night. Kyler Murray, when you're this young and you're really not that good and you got stuff to work with, Josh Allen, Buffalo, you got to get out there, really, I think. So the fact that Jacoby Brissett only had 15 pass attempts is to me a little concerning. Dak Prescott with 14, Eli Manning with 13, Roethlisberger 13, Brady 12. That's probably the ideal number, especially when you're like Roethlisberger, Brady, Manning. Maybe not as much Dak, but when you're that much of a veteran, and even Nick Foles is a veteran, but 10, Drew Brees 6. Maybe he said he felt good. Cam Newton 6 could be the same thing. So but I do got to put a star around Derek Carr. He only had two. But the zeros: Deshaun Watson, Philip Rivers, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, and Mitch Trubisky. So two of them are already played. The score was 10-3, easy under. I was cheering for Green Bay plus the 3.5. That worked. So, but now we got Baltimore, Philly, Rams, Chargers, Houston, and even Oakland that I really want to focus it on. And so those teams playing have the following lines. This is how I remember reading it as a kid. You'd have the favorite on the left. If it was a cap locks are the home teams, small caps is the road team, with the spread and the total. So the Rams come in as a 1.5 point favorite and 50 points. What I think I'm going to be doing is the go against. I might look to only play Carolina on the first half, even the first quarter line. Look at the first quarter, first half lines, because I really think that if you come out there, they could look very, very weak in their first few possessions. Look for first quarter unders, first half unders, as well as game unders and game sides as well. Philadelphia at Washington. Now, this is an interesting one because this is counteracting to what I wanted to do at the start of the season. At the start of the year, I was really strong in wanting to play Philadelphia minus the points. And it was a lot less, too, which makes it interesting. I might just now switch over to Washington Plus, especially in the first half. And that is because you really want to pick on the bad teams, especially early. But Carson Wentz, we're gonna have to see him out there. I double checked. I'm thinking should I have triple checked? I didn't see that he played. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson. I mean, this guy needs to play, and he didn't. Now he's in Miami. Now the reason originally I was liking Miami, and that's outside of home underdogs too, but I don't know how many times I've watched Week One, especially and Week Two NFL games, but mainly Week One games, and I've seen teams like the Denver Broncos, and the New England Patriots for sure as two of them. Uh, But teams in the past go in there week one and it is hot as anything, and the road teams get slaughtered. I can remember as a Bronco fan back in the day watching it happen once, and I think last year it happened to the Patriots too. But I can just remember a few other times in the past, early in the season. Now, whether I know we're coming off of the hurricane Dorian, and I don't know what the status is or what the weather's going to be like. It's only Friday now, so we got to think that we got to hopefully have normal weather. But if it becomes really sunny as well, I got to think that taking Miami first quarter, first half, full game plus the points, and even on the money line to win outright, I think might be a spectacular play. Now, LA Chargers minus 6.5 in Indy. I think maybe the under might be the best way of playing this. And with Cody Brissett, I don't think he might have played enough in the preseason, given that he's coming into a new situation. He's young and he's not that good of a player, probably. And I think that might be a big reason for the under. It is Philip Rivers. And I mean, they can get it together in the second half. Again, another reason why I might look to just play the first quarter or the first half of something like this under the total. And the Denver Broncos, I guess I would hope for Von Miller and the likes on the defense, and maybe the running game with Philip Lindsay. But but that to me could mean that they might have to run the ball and win on defense, but that could easily be done. I'd have to think it is in Oakland. They've had a wild history. These two teams going back to the 1970s and 80s. 80s for me from watching it. Late 80s is when I really started watching the rivalry. But I mean, it's the last game of the weekend. I'm probably not going to put too much. It's all going to be about these first five games. Now, as far as fantasy football, daily fantasy mainly, well, it means I'm not going to have any part of the Los Angeles anything on the Los Angeles offensive side. I came out with a good receiver. I think his name is I can't remember his name on Philadelphia. I think it's Whiteside on Philadelphia, but uh, but he might be the only guy I would play. But I might want to play him on week two or week three. I'm probably not going to want anything to do with Philadelphia in daily fantasy. Nothing to do with Baltimore. Nothing to do with Philip Rivers or San Diego. Nothing to do with any of the Houston players at all on the Philadelphia. But it also means Todd Gurley off of my radar. But someone who will be on my radar for fantasy football, I didn't plan on saying this, is going to be, I think maybe Matt Ryan. And an interesting player to play him with is going to be Calvin Ridley, the wide receiver. Coming into his second year, he was a very high draft pick last year. He was a very off and on player, but he did accumulate a good amount of yards and some touchdowns. And that's what you want to play in daily fantasy football as it is anyway. Guys that can come out and put out big games on any given day where maybe they can put up well over 100 yards and a couple touchdowns. And I think Calvin Ridley, going in your second, third year, those type of players I think are primed for such. But this will be the first time I'm ever going to take an angle like this on not playing the preseason. But tangibly speaking, this you cannot simulate game speed really much at all. And to go right into it, and then that's that. I mean, it's okay if you're at least playing a dry playbook in the preseason, because I gotta think that these guys here were like 20-25% like speed. Now they're going to 100. Where these guys were playing 20-25% speed at practice, and then they play Thursday, Friday, or whatever night on preseason, and then they go to 70% speed or 75, which I think is a lot easier when you go into the season. Now, I've never remembered this because as I've always figured it to be preseason, at least I started watching preseason in the 90s actually. And being someone who used to love playing the Madden video games, and I'd play franchises, and I'd play my preseason just for trying to find out who I want, see how my rookies and my draft picks and all them do and everything, and try to see who my starting core backup quarterback is, all those things. And generally speaking, you barely play your quarterback in the first week. That's pretty much how it was. And then towards the end of last decade, start of this one, you probably wouldn't play them at all. Then in the second week, you play them into the second quarter. And that recently has been going on where you might play them a couple of series or even just one in the second week. Then in the third week, sometimes you play your starters into the third quarter even, but you play them nearly the half, and then that's switched to into the second quarter, or play a couple or three series. And then week four preseason, it used to be maybe you'd barely play your starters, and then for the last dozen or so years, it's don't even play them at all. But now we're getting in the day and age where maybe you barely play them at all. After all, only two pass attempts for Derek Carr. Like, what's up with that? And then Drew Brees just getting it done once. And I remember when I was playing in Madden back in the day, I'd have a star quarterback that I developed or something. And I'd play a little bit of preseason. I'd play one series, and my quarterback looked great. And I know it's all a video game, but I would be thinking, man, if you go out there looking great after your first series and that's it, just call it quits after that. If you're good in game shape and it's good to go, then that's all you need to do. But yeah, I'll be looking to play Miami really big, Los Angeles Chargers, Indianapolis under the total. New Orleans laying the 7. I mean, I got to think now New Orleans is going to destroy Houston. This might be like a 20, 30, 40 point blowout now. I might be looking to target. I know this is a quarterback that I'm talking about, but this helps the offense when the quarterback of the other team when the quarterback sucks. And that is if Houston is going to keep on punting the ball, which they probably will end up doing. That means New Orleans will get their possessions faster than normal, and maybe even with better field position. So that's going to help guys like Kamara and Drew Brees and the entire anyone you can find on the offensive system on the New Orleans Saints. So I think New Orleans Saints is a pretty. They might be the if you're in one of those pools where you need to pick one game a week. Especially if you, yeah, well, there's no especially because what I'm thinking of just doesn't exist much. I'm not going to say it, but there's just the fact that Houston's probably, I don't see them getting it done. And yeah, this go under. I don't trust the Indy defense. So, and the total's 44. We got a 39 total here. And I remember days and age of the 32, 33, 34 totals from the start of the millennium. That they don't in the end of the 90s as well, but they don't really exist much anymore. But 44 and a half seems to be a pretty big number, and I think just taking this on the first half and first quarter line might be one of the appropriate ways of handling it. And then quickly taking a look at this on the covers board because I didn't cover every game. If there's anything else that I see, Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City. I mean, he played very, very well. Jacksonville's got a good defense. So maybe one thing on daily fantasy, if it means much, maybe the Kansas City players might be a little under-owned because they feel Jacksonville's defense is pretty good and it's in Jacksonville. And for the same Miami reason for the Heat, I might be a little concerned about that too. But I believe Patrick Mahomes is by far the real deal. He threw I think it was either a no hitter or a perfect game in college baseball. And baseball's not even his main game. So he's the real deal, I think. And he had a great year last year. And it wasn't his fault they didn't make it to the Super Bowl by any means. Tennessee, Cleveland. Baker Mahomes played a lot. I think this is a very low number at the 5.5. I think Cleveland's going to come out firing and playing Cleveland on the first quarter, first half lines might be another way of going as well too, because I think they'll just come out a fly-in that matchup. Cincinnati against Seattle. I like Seattle this year, but I didn't think this line was going to be that. The public's dissing Cincinnati really bad, and I mean I know, but I think they're giving Cincinnati the mainstream public more bad mojo than they deserve. But I have more mojo on Seattle than the public's giving it. I think this might be a fair spread. And San Francisco against Tampa Bay. I don't know what I did there. That's try to okay. Giants Dallas. Boring game there. That is a boring game. Detroit Arizona picking on the backup quarterback. Over unders 46. Maybe a play on the under in that game. That's a pretty big line. One of my best bets of all time though was actually, and no one will remember this probably, but 2002 I think it was on opening day between the expansion Houston Texans and the Dallas Cowboys. I actually backed up rookie quarterback David Carr. But that's because I thought Dallas was just as bad as Houston, and they made Houston like 7, 8 point home favorites or underdogs rather. That was just like what the heck was up with that line? Yeah, so I like to see New Orleans -7. New England laying 5.5 against Pittsburgh. That's a good line, but I think Pittsburgh's going to be so much better because of this whole headache thing from that of wide receiver Antonio Brown out of Pittsburgh, and J.J. Schuster. He's just a phenomenal talent. But that's a good line, and I think over the total of 49 might be a way to go to there. Over 49. Both of these teams have, I think, they can get. I mean, New England's going to be forced to score if Pittsburgh's going to move the ball. And Ben Roethlisberger just is, he'll just keep on throwing if it has to. James Conner's a tremendous wide receiver, so they've been able to replace two of the big. I used to call them the big Bs, the three Bs, because you had Antonio Brown, B for Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and then Big Ben or Ben Roethlisberger. But they've lost two of them. Le'Veon Bell's gone, but they got Connor, and then they lost Antonio Brown, and they got Schuster. So they've kind of replaced those guys. They're in good shape. And then the Denver Broncos, Oakland Raiders. I think Joe Flacco is just a horrible quarterback. But Derek Carr really didn't play too much. Oakland, I think, is just a joke of a team. Under the total of 43, maybe one of the ways of playing it under in the first half as well. And there we can see in this game here, I mean, 10-3 was the final. Under by 33.5 points. Thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great day. Bye bye.